Hey everyone, so in today's video I'm doing another collab. I feel like it's been forever since I've done a collab, but I am collabing with Appleminte and this is my first time ever collabing with her. If you don't know who she is, she does art videos here on YouTube. She does things like hauls and challenges and speed paints and her style is so cute, so you definitely need to check her out. What we're doing is we are drawing each other as princesses, so if you want to see her draw me as a princess, be sure to check out the link down below to head over to her video. And if you like what you see, consider subscribing. I like drawing big dresses a lot and just fluffy princessy stuff, but it can get a little repetitive over time and I need inspiration on how to give the dress unique details that I don't normally give it. And so I busted out some of my reference books. I've shown these in previous videos, but there's a lot of cool dresses in these books and just little details you can draw inspiration from. Sometimes I just see one tiny detail on an outfit and that inspires an entirely new outfit. There's just so much to look at in these books. And I was really drawn to frilly sleeves, like sleeves that cut off at about the elbow and then there's frills hanging down. I really like that look, so I wanted to incorporate that as well as a double puffed shoulder, because I've done puffed shoulders many times, but a double puffed shoulder, I've never done that, so I wanted to incorporate that as well. I started out by sketching some ideas, and it's hard when you're doing something that is meant to be a character design because you want some kind of pose that's going to show off the design, but at the same time I wanted something a little more dynamic, so it was a bit tough. And I think I actually like my little doodles here more than the final thing. I mean, I do still like the final thing, but I think the little bust shot I did from the front view, the face looks so much cuter than how it turned out in the finished one. But that's just how it is, I guess. It's always easier for me to just draw plain straight from the front things. So anyway, I was planning out the outfits and I was drawing a few little characters because she has these little squishy characters that I see sometimes in her videos. I've seen them on Instagram and I decided to incorporate those into the drawing, so I was just practicing drawing a couple of those before diving into it. And then I was planning out the composition of the piece. Really, I only ended up doing one thumbnail. I drew a vertical thumbnail like in portrait and then I was like, wait, I have an idea, so switched it to landscape, and it was meant to be sort of a foreshortened view from down below, not really like an upskirt shot, but kind of an upskirt shot, but not in a pervy way, more just like the dynamic falling backwards kind of pose. I don't know, I thought that'd be kind of neat, just sort of floating, but I didn't end up drawing her as foreshortened as it was in the thumbnail. One, because I kind of just screwed up, but two, like I said, I wanted to show off more of the dress, and I was like, well, if I draw it from such an extreme angle like this, when I draw the ruffles from the bottom, that's going to pretty much cover a big chunk of the skirt and you won't even see the details on the skirt and you won't see many details on her bodice. It was just going to cover too much, so that's why I decided to put it down a little bit further. I probably could have made it a little more foreshortened though. Like I mentioned, I kind of also just screwed up a little bit on it, but it does show off more of the dress. I also kept her arms to the sides for that reason, because initially I thought maybe her arms could be in front of her and she could be holding up one of the little squishies, or it could even be just floating above her hands. But then I thought, well, we're not going to see the sleeves, which I wanted to be kind of the main, not the main focus, but it's the new element I wanted to add to this that I've never drawn before. So I was like, okay, if I want to see the poofy sleeves and the lacy bits at the elbow, I can't have her arms in front of her, and that would also cover the bodice of her dress, so it would just cover too much. And since this is designing a character, I want you to be able to see the design. So that's just some of my thought process in this. Also, I just struggled so much with this sketch in general. Some days I feel like I can sketch pretty fast and it just works and it looks roughly how I want it to look. Other days I fight everything. I'm fighting with the face, I'm fighting with the body, I'm fighting with the hands, and this was one of those days where I was fighting with everything. Even the ruffles, I was erasing them multiple times and redrawing them. I was kind of thinking, okay, maybe we should be seeing them more from the bottom. Then I was like, well, no, I didn't actually end up foreshortening this that much, so you don't really see it from the underside that much. It's too extreme of an angle, and just redoing everything. The hands, I didn't even record all of it, and a lot of the stuff I did record I just cut out because it's just me erasing the hands and drawing them again in several different poses, trying to figure out what I want and trying to get it to just look good. Yeah, it was a bit of a struggle, but Eventually, I got it to where I liked it, and I added the little animals, and I added some in the foreground, some in the background, just to give a bit of a sense of depth. There's no real background to it. She's kind of just floating in the middle of nowhere with the animals. The animals kind of just are the background element. The far side of her dress that goes behind the little chick, which is the one that's the biggest, that edge of the dress, I ended up cutting it down to be closer to her body because it just looked too far away. I don't know, it just didn't look right. Just the whole perspective of the skirt looked off, so I did that to help fix it a little bit. And then once I was finally done the sketch, after probably 2.5 to 3 hours, I moved on to the inking. For this last while, I've been using colored pencils a lot to outline my drawings, but this one I wanted actual ink because there were a lot of tiny little details, and it's just hard to get super crisp detail with a pencil because even if it's super sharp, you'll get the nice detail, but then when you color over it with Copic, it just starts to smudge, and then you have to try to go back in and redo the tiny detail, and I was just not prepared to do that. I wanted the crisp, nice outlines of an ink pen, so I used my Copic multiliners. I mostly used my sepia, and then I did use black for some of the details, like the eyes and the glasses and the hair, because the hair was going to be pretty dark, so I figured I might as well just outline it in black, otherwise the sepia outlines would just be totally gone. I do feel like the face turned out a lot better in the sketch, and I don't mean what I mentioned before in the very early planning sketches, I mean the sketch that I'm tracing. The face looked better than when I traced it. Just something about the lip shape was better in the original, and the eyebrows, because I feel like the corners were getting too square on the inked version, but I couldn't really go in and fix it without giving her basically a unibrow, so I just sucked it up and carried on. She said her favorite color is teal, specifically the Copic color BG09, so I definitely wanted to incorporate that into the outfit. Really, there's not a whole lot of elements that are specific to her appearance or interests other than like I tried to capture her likeness in the face. Like I made her hair part the same way. It looks a little too centered from the way we're viewing it, but it's supposed to be a side part, and she usually has her hair tucked behind her ears, so I made sure to do that. But just to make it a little more fancy and less casual, I did pin half of it up behind her head. And then the animals I incorporated, well, one, because I just saw them in her videos and stuff, but also she was mentioning how she likes things like Disney and Pokemon and Animal Crossing, and that has animals all in common, so I figured why not include some kind of animals. And then I thought of her squishies, and so it just kind of, that idea just evolved like that. In the original sketch, she didn't have a crown on her head. That was something I just added kind of last minute, but she did have a flower on the side of her head where the part is, and I omitted that because you couldn't really see it. Really, you could see the edges, I suppose, but it would just be a little bit confusing. I decided to just add a crown on the front instead because she's supposed to be a princess, and I was like, oh yeah, she needs a crown or a tiara at least, so let's add something. I didn't want to put it on the top of the head because the part is off center. It looks weird when the part's off center, but then the hair piece is center. If you're seeing it more from the front, it's more obvious, but just the angle I drew it at, it would just look like the crown was slightly crooked when really it was in the center of the head. It's just the part that was off center. It didn't work with the angle I drew it at, so I just put the crown on the side of her head, kind of like it's just stuck on, sticking out. For the teal parts of her dress, I loved how the shoulders came out, and then I started on the lower part of the dress, and initially I was like, this is looking great too. And as I started coloring the lower portions, I realized that on the upper half, which looks better than the lower half, I made the lines go the wrong way. Based on the perspective, the lines should be curving downwards, not curving upwards. And so, like normally if I drew a character standing straight on, I would have it curve up like that, but they should be curving down, and so I tried leveling it out a little bit, and I worked on it more later on, you'll see. I'll fix it even more, but I was just like, how could you be so stupid? And so in the end I lost a lot of the highlights because I kept layering more color on to try to fix the direction of the creases, so that was a bit of a struggle. It probably just sounds like I'm complaining about every aspect of the drawing. I'm not. I'm just trying to explain my process and what I went through and why I made certain decisions, and so yeah. Because she said her favorite color was teal, I didn't want to have too many competing colors in this and wanted to keep it simple. I thought, why not have a goldish yellow, because that just is related to riches and royalty, like a princess, I guess. And then I incorporated more brown because she did have brown in her hair. I didn't make it as red as her hair, but I did put some of that throughout. And then I just used a warm gray to keep the color palette more simple. I was loving the colors, and then I thought, oh no, when I color the little squishy animals, it's totally gonna ruin my color palette because the colors don't match up. But it actually ended up being okay because the big chick is yellow, and there is yellow in the drawing, so that works. Some of them I just changed the color, so I didn't include too many. Like, okay, I was like, okay, the chick is yellow, I'm gonna make this random one yellow just to help balance out the yellows and to not add too many colors. And things like the blue squid type squishy she's holding, it's close enough to teal. And then I did some pink ones, and I thought, oh no, there's no pink anywhere else. I guess it adds a pop of color, but oh no. And then I thought, well, at least her lips are pink. It kind of matches. So it ended up matching more than I thought. Really, the only part that doesn't match is the orange of the beak. And I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm not even at that part yet, but I'm talking about it. I was just excited to talk about it. And then some of the animals are also just white, so I colored them with warm gray, and that also helped match her outfit. The underside of her skirt is a little empty. I was gonna add tons of frillies and stuff, but ultimately opted against it. I just started adding some frillies on the edge, but then when I colored it, it just looked like an empty dome. So there's nothing holding her skirt up to make it poofy. It just is poofy. Maybe she's falling and the air is just blowing it open. I don't know. I had a lot of fun coloring in the little squishy guys because they're so spherical, and it was just, I don't know, it's fun coloring spheres, I guess, especially the little octopus because he's a bunch of little spheres, and it just, I don't know, it's satisfying to look at, and it was satisfying to do. It's just very cute. It's very shiny. But yeah, as we're winding down to the end of this video, I just want to remind you to go check out Appleminte's video to see how she drew me as a princess. It's so cute. I saw it already, and oh my goodness, and it involves Kiki and Midnight. You have to check it out. You have to check it out. Link down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.